AK-47, a weapon so simple, so brutal, and so perfectly designed that it has outlived every empire that ever tried to ban it. It has been carried by guerrilla fighters, revolutionary armies, child soldiers, and special forces operators on every single continent on Earth. More than 100 million of them exist today, which means for every 80 people alive on this planet, there is one AK-47 waiting somewhere. No other weapon in human history has shaped more conflicts, toppled more governments, or changed more borders. This is the full story of the Kalashnikov, from a wounded Soviet soldier's dream to a legend that refuses to die. Welcome to ForceVault, where we go deep inside the machines, the weapons, and the engineering decisions that have defined modern warfare. Today we are covering the complete history of one of the most recognizable assault rifles ever built. A weapon that was born out of desperation, refined through necessity, and perfected by genius. The year is 1941, and the Soviet Union is being torn apart by the German invasion known as Operation Barbarossa. Soviet troops were being slaughtered in part because their weapons were unreliable, slow, and completely outclassed by German firepower. A young Red Army sergeant named Mikhail Kalashnikov was wounded during the Battle of Bryansk and spent months recovering in a military hospital. It was there, lying in that hospital bed, that Mikhail Kalashnikov began sketching the concept for a new kind of assault rifle. He was 22 years old, with no formal engineering training, and a burning obsession with solving a problem that was killing his fellow soldiers. The Soviet military needed a weapon that could do three things: fire fast, stay reliable in mud and cold, and be simple enough for any soldier to operate. After leaving the hospital, Kalashnikov began working obsessively, competing with experienced Soviet weapons engineers to design a new standard infantry rifle. His designs were rejected twice, but Kalashnikov refused to quit, and with each failure, he refined, simplified, and improved. In 1947, after years of trials, the Soviet Army officially adopted his design and called it the Automat Kalashnikova, the AK-47. The name AK-47 simply stands for Automat Kalashnikova, 1947, named after its creator and the year it was born. Look at the AK-47 from the outside, and the first thing you notice is how brutally practical it looks. There are no unnecessary curves, no fancy ergonomic contours. Every line on this weapon exists for a reason. The iconic curved 30-round magazine, the one shape that every person on Earth can recognize, was designed to feed a brand new Soviet cartridge called the 7.62 by 39 millimeters. That curve isn't just aesthetic. It's a functional necessity caused by the slight taper of the 7.62 by 39 cartridge itself. A detail that also became the rifle's most iconic visual signature. The wooden stock and handguard were chosen not for aesthetics, but because wood was cheap, available everywhere, and easy to replace in the field. Now let's look at what actually makes the Kalashnikov tick, because the engineering inside this weapon is where its legend truly begins. The AK-47 uses a long-stroke gas piston system, meaning when the round fires, gas pressure from the barrel drives a piston directly connected to the bolt carrier rearward. This long-stroke design is more powerful and more forgiving than short-stroke systems, which is exactly why the AK-47 keeps cycling even when caked in sand, mud, or rice. The loose tolerances between the moving parts, something that would horrify a precision engineer, are actually intentional. Those gaps give debris and contamination somewhere to go, instead of jamming the action. A brutal engineering solution that works even when everything else fails. The safety selector switch on the right side of the receiver serves a dual purpose. It blocks the trigger and seals the ejection port against dirt simultaneously. The barrel of the AK-47 is chrome-lined, a feature that extends its service life massively and allows it to handle corrosive ammunition without deteriorating. On the firing range, the AK-47 is not known for pinpoint accuracy, and Kalashnikov never designed it to be. The AK-47 was designed for effective combat at ranges of 300 to 400 meters, because that is where most infantry firefights actually happen. It fires at approximately 600 rounds per minute in full automatic, which gives a trained soldier tremendous suppressive firepower in a compact, lightweight package. The 7.6 2x39 cartridge it fires delivers significant stopping power, capable of penetrating light cover, vehicle glass, and basic ballistic protection. The AK-47 entered its first major combat test during the Korean War era, when Soviet-supplied weapons began appearing in conflicts around the world almost immediately after production began. But it was the Vietnam War that truly proved the AK-47's superiority and humiliated America's own standard infantry rifle in the process. American soldiers equipped with the early M16 were experiencing catastrophic jamming failures in the jungle heat and humidity, while Viet Cong fighters with AK-47s kept firing through everything. American troops started picking up captured AK-47s from the battlefield because they trusted the enemy's weapon more than their own. That moment became one of the most humiliating episodes in American military history, and a defining proof of the AK-47's battlefield dominance. The Soviet Union used the AK-47 and its descendants as a geopolitical tool, supplying them to every revolutionary movement, proxy army, and liberation front that aligned with communist ideology. From Cuba to Angola, from Afghanistan to Nicaragua, wherever the Cold War turned hot, the AK-47 was always there. The Soviet-Afghan War of the 1980s saw the AK-47 fight itself, as US-funded Mujahideen fighters used the same weapon against Soviet troops who carried it. The AK-47 had become something beyond a weapon. It had become a symbol of resistance, revolution, and anti-establishment power. The original AK-47 was already extraordinary, but the Soviets kept evolving it, pushing the evolution of AK-47 design through several generations of refinement. In 1959, the AKM was introduced, the modernized Kalashnikov, featuring a stamped steel receiver instead of the original's heavier milled version. Cutting weight significantly, the AKM became the most widely produced variant, and when people refer to the iconic assault rifle today, they are almost always looking at an AKM or a derivative of it. Then in 1974, the Soviets made a more radical change, introducing the AK-74, which fired a smaller, faster 5.45 by 39mm cartridge modeled on lessons learned from the American M16's 5.56mm round. The AK-74 proved its worth almost immediately. In the brutal mountains of Afghanistan, where Soviet special forces carried it into some of the fiercest combat of the Cold War era, the gun facts surrounding the AK-74 were impressive. Reduced recoil, higher velocity, and the same legendary Kalashnikov reliability that soldiers had come to depend on absolutely. The Soviet Union licensed the AK design to dozens of countries, and several more simply copied it without permission, creating a weapon ecosystem unlike anything in military history. China's Type 56 assault rifle, Yugoslavia's Zastava M70, Egypt's Mahdi, East Germany's Imamihi IK, all AK-47 variants built under Soviet license or outright cloned. The Kalashnikov design was so robust and logical that factories with primitive machining capability could produce functional copies, which is exactly why it spread to nations with almost no weapons industry at all. The AK-47 even appeared on national flags and emblems. Mozambique put it on their national flag in 1983, making it the only firearm in the world to be immortalized on a sovereign nation's flag. In conflict zones from West Africa to the Middle East, the black market price of an AK-47 has sometimes dropped below $50 US because there are simply so many of them in circulation. This proliferation has had devastating consequences, making the AK-47 the weapon of choice not just for stand-in armies, but for terrorist groups, drug cartels, and non-state armed actors worldwide. Today, the Kalashnikov design lives on in a family of modern weapons that bear almost no visual resemblance to the original 1947 rifle, but carry the same DNA inside. The AK-12 is Russia's current standard infantry rifle, introduced into service in 2018, featuring ambidextrous controls, improved ergonomics, and full accessory rail compatibility. Meanwhile, in the United States, the AK platform has developed an enormous civilian following, with American-made AK pattern rifles from manufacturers like Arsenal, CMMG, and Palmetto State Armory, achieving cult status among gun enthusiasts. Modern AK pattern rifles can now be equipped with night vision optics, suppressors, tactical lights, laser aiming systems, and folding stocks, while retaining the same reliable gas piston action inside. Special Forces units from dozens of countries still choose AK pattern weapons today. Because when your life depends on a rifle functioning, proven reliability beats cutting-edge features every time. So how does the AK-47 actually compare to the rifles that were designed to defeat it? Against the American M16A2, the AK-47 loses on accuracy, ergonomics, and overall trigger quality, but wins on raw durability, simplicity of operation, and resistance to environmental abuse. Against the German G36 or the Belgian FN SCAR, the AK family again concedes on modularity and precision, but the AK-47 costs a fraction of the price and requires almost no maintenance infrastructure. The AK-47's greatest competitive advantage has always been the same. It works when everything else doesn't, and it costs almost nothing to put in a soldier's hand. In the jungles of Southeast Asia, the deserts of the Middle East, the mountains of Central Asia, and the urban battlefields of Eastern Europe, the AK-47 and its descendants have outlasted every competitor. Mikhail Kalashnikov himself lived to age 94, dying in December 2013. A celebrated Soviet hero who was simultaneously haunted by the violence his creation had enabled. Near the end of his life, Kalashnikov wrote to the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, asking whether he bore moral responsibility for the deaths caused by his weapon. He wrote, "The pain in my soul is unbearable. I keep asking the same question. If my rifle took people's lives, does it mean I am responsible for their deaths?" That question, from the man who designed one of history's most lethal weapons, speaks to the profound human weight that every major weapons engineer must carry. His legacy is not simply the weapon itself, but the proof that a single determined person with a clear vision can change the course of military history forever. So what makes the AK-47 truly different from every other weapon ever built? The answer is not rate of fire, not range, not even accuracy. The answer is philosophy. Mikhail Kalashnikov designed a weapon that could be carried by anyone, maintained by anyone, and operated under any conditions on Earth. And that philosophy has never been beaten. More than 75 years after its introduction, the AK-47 and its direct descendants remain the world's most widely used assault rifle family, with no end in sight. The AK-47 is not simply a weapon. It is a technology that became a force of nature, spreading itself across the earth faster than any army could ever contain it. It is a weapon that has been praised by freedom fighters and condemned by human rights organizations, celebrated by nations and banned by others, but ignored by absolutely no one. The gun facts tell the story clearly. An estimated 250,000 people die every year from AK-type weapons, making it not just the most produced rifle in history, but statistically the most deadly individual weapon ever manufactured. And yet, the weapon engineering that produced it remains a masterpiece of functional design, a lesson that every military engineer, strategist, and historian returns to again and again. The AK-47 achieved what no other assault rifle has ever fully replicated. A weapon so simple it needs no explanation, so durable it needs no maintenance schedule, and so effective it needs no justification. The story of the AK-47 is the story of what happens when simple engineering meets desperate necessity. And the result changes the world forever. From a wounded sergeant's hospital bed in 1941 to the hands of over 100 million fighters across 8 decades of conflict. This is the legacy of Mikhail Kalashnikov. Now here's a question I want you to think about. If Mikhail Kalashnikov had never designed the AK-47, how different would the last 80 years of human conflict have looked? Drop your answer in the comments below, because I genuinely want to know what you think. And the conversation down there is always one of the best parts of this channel. And if you want more videos going this deep on military machines, weapons history, and the engineering that changed warfare, hit subscribe right now, because at ForceVault, we are just getting started.